Saga. In this episode, I am talking about The Phantom, which is a 1996 superhero film directed by Simon Wincer and starring Billy Zane, Kristy Swanson, and Treat Williams. It's based on Frank Falk's The Phantom comic strip, which started publishing in 1936 and appears to still be running to this day. It has several adaptations, different crossovers with different superheroes. There's been animated shows. Apparently there was a sci-fi original miniseries in 2009. It was 2 episodes. It was a 4-hour movie, it was described as. When I looked it up, it said it was a sequel to the original movie. But then the more I looked into it, it looked like it was its own unique original thing. I could only find that series on YouTube, split up between 16 videos, and it was very poor quality. I might watch them at some point. Apparently it had good reviews. I couldn't find The Phantom 1996 streaming anywhere, so I bought it on Blu-ray. This is another movie that I saw growing up as a kid. In fact, it gave me nightmares because of one scene in particular. You know how... Okay, let's just say, for example, there's a movie that terrified you as a kid. There's a monster, it leaps out, and it's running, and in your mind, it looks so real, and the monster is so scary, and it gives you nightmares, and then you watch it as a kid, and it's like a claymation thing, and you're like, oh wow, why was I scared of that? That's so stupid. Okay, this is me while editing. Obviously, I meant as an adult, not as a kid. Yeah, so there's a scene in the movie where the main antagonist of the film, Xander Drax, he's played by Treat Williams. He has this microscope, a golden microscope, and it shows him in one scene turning a knob and spikes coming out of the eye holes. And then I remember showing later this guy coming and then he goes, hey, look into this thing, this microscope. I want you to look at something. The guy looks in, and then he turns the knob, and then all you hear is screaming. In my mind, that was the scariest thing. I remember seeing it. I remember seeing the spikes go into his eye. And it gave me nightmares as a kid. It gave me nightmares even now as an adult. I decided to cover this movie because it was nostalgic. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'll just get through that scene and review the rest of the movie. I remember it as this really cool, action-packed superhero film that was, cutting edge, and it was, the coolest thing ever. And then it gets to that scene, it's, right at the beginning. And it's, so quick that, I was like, oh, wait, that was it? Is that the only time it happens? It was, it's nothing. You don't see anything. And, the spikes barely come out. It's kind of cheesy, actually. And in fact, this movie, I think they're going for because like I said, the comic strip started in 1936, and I think they were going more for an old action hero, old superhero form comic book movie, because it's kind of a cheesy movie. Not saying it's bad. I still really like it. It's still really good. I was messaging my sisters while I was watching it, and they were like, all I remember is Billy Zane, and I'm like, okay, that's fair. And and it wasn't what I remember it being, but again, it's not a bad thing. It's just it's like watching that old horror movie that I was talking about. This old horror movie that scared you as a kid. A monster so scary. And you watch it now, and it's claymation. But, you're laughing at it. But you're still having a good time. You're still liking it. It's still, a fun time watching it. And that's kind of like with this. I remember being, the Avengers level thing. Well, maybe not the levels. I remember it being this big, Spider-Man, Marvel's type level comic book movie. And it ended up being I want to say, knockoff Indiana Jones with the superhero thing. He basically wears this purple costume the whole time, and he doesn't mask his voice at all. It's Billy Zane, and when he's out of the costume, he's Kit Walker, and he goes back to New York. There's an old friend of his from college, Diana Palmer, played by Kristy Swanson, and so like she actually goes to where he is. He's basically headquartered, stationed, living, whatever, in the jungle. It, like, never really specifies where exactly. I actually look at the Wikipedia, and it's like, the jungle. I'm like, okay, generic as it is. And so, like, Diana is the niece of, like, a newspaper tycoon, and he's gonna go investigate these skulls. These, like they're not crystal skulls, they're like crystal skull stand-ins, basically. There's supposed to be 3 of them. They come together, they're very powerful, whatever. And he's gonna go investigate it, but she's like, no, you can't, it's dangerous, I'll go. And he's like, okay, fine. And so she goes, and she ends up being captured, and then the Phantom comes and rescues her. But it's kind of like Princess Leia. She takes over the rescue, and I love it because he's like trying to take charge. He's like, I'm coming to rescue you. And she's like, okay, thanks for that. I'm in charge now. And then, yeah, she takes over and she rescues them. In fact, he even gives her the credit. And he's like, you did well, Phantom. And he was like, actually, Diana did all the work. And so they're talking to each other. He takes her to his headquarters, his base of operations or whatever. And then she goes back to New York. And then she opens the door. She sees him from across the room and goes, Kit? Oh, we're old friends from college. And then they're talking, and it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, how does she not recognize his voice? He's literally using the same voice. Billy Zane does not have, like, a common voice. I recognize Billy Zane's voice anywhere, basically, and she doesn't recognize him, like, his voice. She doesn't recognize his voice. She recognizes his face from across the room. She's standing in front of him. The only thing that's really covered are his eyes. Like, his nose, his mouth, all that, still completely seen, but she doesn't recognize him because he's got his eyes covered. Of course, at the end, she's like, take off your mask so I can see your face, Kit. Which makes you wonder, when did she know it was him? She never really reacted like, oh, I know you. So, like, it never really explained, like, when she... I think I kind of know when she figured it out, because I'm thinking that he just gave away his secret identity while they're still in New York. He's Kit. He's running, like, they're chasing Kit. The henchmen are chasing Kit. He goes into this closet thing, and they open the door. There's clothes on the ground, and then the Phantom swoops in and starts kicking them. And I'm thinking, well, you just gave away your identity. They're all going to know it's you. And so I'm wondering if that's when she figured it out, because the Phantom was in the jungle, and how did he get here? Wait, Kit was just here. Wait, that voice kind of sounded familiar. But I also didn't go into, like, the story of the Phantom. Like, the legends of the Phantom say that he's immortal because he's been protecting that jungle for 400 years. But really, like, the introduction of the film shows that there was a little kid, that his family was attacked and killed by pirates, and he washed up on shore. And then this tribe, instead of killing him like he thought it was going to happen, they were like, we're going to appoint you a hero. And they give him a skull ring. And it's been passed down father to son ever since. And Kit Walker, Billy Zane's character, is the 21st Phantom. In fact, one of the henchmen is like, whenever a Phantom shows up, he's like, no way, I killed this guy years ago. Yeah, he killed Kit's father, and that comes up later, obviously, as he's killing him. He's like, you killed my father, and the guy's like, wait, what? Like, yep. And yeah, that's basically the story of the Phantom and how, like, his whole thing. It's a really interesting premise, honestly. you never really know what the ring's for. Like, he has a ring, and it like they basically like stress like, oh, this is important. This is his thing. Is he wears this ring that has a skull on it, and it's not really explained until like the very end. The skulls are brought together, and then it like shoots a beam and like destroys people. But then like the guy shoots it at the Phantom, and then the ring deflects it. And it's like, that's the whole purpose. 400 years you've been carrying this ring for this one specific purpose. It never shows him like. Obviously, it's not like the Green Lantern where he can make whatever out of it or do whatever, like shoot lasers out of it or something. The only other thing I can think of is there's several people throughout the film that it shows. I think there's at least 2 people it shows that have like the mark of the skull on their face, or I guess where he punched them so hard it left an imprint. But like other than that, like what's the point of the ring? Oh, but I also didn't. Normally, I talk about like the other things people have done that are in the movie. I'm going to talk about that after I've already talked about the movie. Simon Wincer was the director, and he also directed Quigley Down Under, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, Free Willy, Lightning Jack, Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, and episodes of Young Indiana Jones. Which I forgot to tell my sisters this, but they're going to freak out. Lightning Jack is another one of those movies that are virtually unknown, but we grew up with it. And yeah, the fact that the guy that directed The Phantom directed Lightning Jack is insane to me. Also, Billy Zane, he was in Back to the Future 1 and 2. He was one of Biff's buddies. He was in Going Overboard. He was in Tombstone, Pocahontas 2, Zoolander 1 and 2. He was in episodes of Twin Peaks. He was in Robot Chicken. He was in an episode of Community. And he was in something called Titanic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Treat Williams, he was in Marathon Man, Once Upon a Time in America, Flashpoint, Miss Congeniality 2, 127 Hours, which I don't know who he could have been, because there's like 4 characters in that movie, and the only thing I can think of is he's probably the father, because there's Aaron, the guy that fell down the thing and got his arm crushed. There's the 2 girls he ran into, and then the father, so it has to have been the father. He was also in American Outlaws, which is coming out this year, I believe. And then his final role is Feud Capote versus the Swans. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. He passed away on June 12th, 2023. He was in a motorcycle crash. He was 71. But he was probably my favorite character in the movie, because you could tell he was just having so much fun in the role. Like every time he was in the scene, I'm just thinking how much fun it was to play that for him, because you could just see how much fun he's having, and I loved it. So like because of that was my favorite character in the film. And then Kristy Swanson, who played Diana, she has been in Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movies. She was the original Buffy. She was also in Big Daddy, Dude, Where's My Car, and it's like a bunch of other movies I'd never heard of, and a lot of them didn't have Wikipedia articles, so I couldn't look further. But yeah, like I will say that even though I haven't heard of most of them, there's a lot of them, so she's staying active. She's like, I think her most recent movie was like 2001. So it's like she's staying active. I'll end this by saying, like, even though, like I said, like it's not the action-packed superhero whatever that I thought it was as a kid, it's still a really fun movie, and it's kind of like campy and cheesy. I think, like I told my sister, the only thing that's really missing is like the 60s Batman style pow, wow, bang things that pop up. That's basically the only thing missing, because it's that kind of, it's that level of cheesiness. But again, that doesn't mean it's bad. I really liked it, and I highly recommend it. If you could find a copy of it, like I found it on Amazon on Blu-ray for like $10. So if you want to do that, I highly recommend watching it. Because unfortunately, like I said, it's not streaming anywhere, and it's not, you can't rent it anywhere either. I looked, I was going to rent it on YouTube or Prime or something, so I pretty much had no choice but to buy it. I I don't pirate movies. I know people, they're like, you could have just pirated it. And they like send me the link. And I'm like, do not send me those links. I do not do that. I either stream them, watch them on Hoopla, which is streaming, or buy them physically. I have a lot of movies physically. In fact, I looked, there's 7 movies that I bought this season just to cover on the podcast. And I'm not even done yet. There's still more that are on my Amazon cart. Oh, one last thing I want to say. This movie actually made me a little behind on my recording schedule. Because like I said, I had that I was not looking forward to watching it because of that fear as a kid. It's like when I got to that scene, I'm like, really? That's it? And then the rest of the movie just went by and I kind of forgot about that scene. But like, it was that traumatizing as a kid. So it's like, I think it was kind of therapeutic to watch because like, oh, I can stop having nightmares about that. But because I wasn't looking forward to watching it, it's been like 2 weeks since I had watched a movie. I haven't recorded an episode in a couple of weeks. That does not mean I'm behind technically, because this episode isn't going to come out till the end of September, and it's currently middle of July. Right now it is July 20th, 2024, and I recorded all the episodes up to this point in this season. I've recorded either in May or June. And I'm trying to record way ahead of time. And so, yeah, there was that delay because I was like, I want to watch this movie, but is there a way to like skip past that part? But like, nope. I went ahead and just watched it because I'm looking forward to the Halloween movies that I have coming up. The films for October, I'm looking forward to that, and I want to get to that. So I'm glad I got through this movie so I can get to that. In a way, it was kind of a just get it over with type of watch, but I'm glad I saw it. And there's also the thought that I could have just not covered it at all. But, like, for 2 reasons. I really wanted to because, like, it's a lesser-known movie, and I'm doing a lot of lesser-known movies this year. There are some well-known movies, like 50 First Dates, but you don't hear people talk about it anymore. But most of the movies I have for this season are either lesser-known movies or movies that people don't talk about anymore. And that definitely falls. Like, I don't know anybody that talks about The Phantom. And the other reason, I already bought it. So, it's just sitting on the shelf if I don't cover it. It's like, might as well. But anyway, next week, I think it's, so from June to September, the episodes are bi-weekly, and then starting October through December, the episodes are weekly, because I want to get through a lot of, like, that's like the holiday films, and like in October, I cover more horror-themed films, and then in December, it's more like Christmassy holiday films. November, I was originally trying to do more like Thanksgiving-y films or just general holiday films. Like I did Frozen the first year. I'm like, that's not a holiday film. But now because I was looking at my analytics and I realized that like there are people in other countries that listen to this podcast, and Thanksgiving isn't celebrated anywhere but here in America, the United States. I'm trying to stop saying America, it's the United States, because when you say America elsewhere, they're like, north or south? And I'm like, west? I'm in San Francisco. And they're like, North America. I'm like, oh, right. So, United States. I'm in the United States. There are people outside who don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So, for November, I'm mostly covering, like, autumn type movies. There's not really any, like, strict theme I'm doing with that. I'm not like strictly like this has to be set in the autumn. It's just there's like a certain feel I'm going for the November films. However, there is one film I bought on Blu-ray just to cover, because there's an anniversary coming up in November. And I bought a movie solely for that. It's not an autumn film. I mean, well, technically it is an autumn film because it takes place in November. So that counts. I don't know. But anyway, I just thought I would make a little kind of announcement about that. That's how I've been doing it the last couple of years. But like, it confuses some people because they're like, wait, you were posting that much and then you started posting that much, and then I showed someone my posting schedule and they're like, but why does it speed up at that point? This is why. This is why. And now you know why. Instead of posting bi-weekly from starting with the next episode to the end of the year, it's going to be weekly instead of bi-weekly. And cut.